Every individual has specific images burned into their brain that capture the anxiety and tension of the Cold War era. While most of us did not directly grow up during this time period, we still understand the significance of the phrase, the Red Scare. We still recognize the enormous threat created by a nuclear arms race, and we still hear Cold War-era rhetoric in our news. Many people may ask, why is that? Why is it that over 15 years after the dismantlement of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics do we still feel animosity towards Russia? The answer is simple: democracy. Both countries are founded on very different views of democracy. Russia has historically been a state ruled by an all-powerful and at times tyrannical czar. However, during the Bolshevik Revolution in the early 1900s, Russians attempted to break free of the bonds that tied them to their ruler, and instead created a new entity with radically different ideals. Russia became a new state run by the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. For the United States, a similar tyrannical ruler also prompted its inception. The United States reacted to its oppressive British rule with revolution, much like Russia. However, unlike Russia, its outcome was a declaration of independence. As each country moved forward throughout the 20th century, lines were created, definitions formed, alliances made, and news frames strengthened. The news frame created by the media were constructed definitions of each country that were used to sway the people and create biases throughout the world. In the United States, our news frame concerning Russia is clear. Russia is a brute and aggressive country that cannot break free of its power-hungry ways. During the height of the Cold War, the bilateral powers of the world, the USSR and the United States, were poised to take over the ranking as top country. Each was vying for the sole title of world hegemony. However, they stood eye to eye. As the United States developed its nuclear weapons program, so did the USSR. As the United States had aspirations to venture into space, so did the USSR. In addition, various proxy wars fought in Vietnam, Korea, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Afghanistan also helped in exacerbating the situation and evening the playing field. However, ultimately, to the victor goes the spoils, and in 1989, after the historical and symbolic fall of the Berlin Wall, followed by the dismantlement of the USSR in 1991, the United States was the victor. As a hegemonic state, the U.S. has taken its role in the international community very seriously. Its power and influence in the United Nations and the North American Treaty Organization demonstrates the extent of American influence throughout the world. However, for Russia, its economic downturn and struggle to provide for its people has proved an upward battle for this once all-powerful country. As Russia has climbed its way back into the main stage of the world economy and international community, its former position as a world leader has been difficult to part with. Russia remains bitter towards the U.S. not only for the power that has been stripped from this once dominant country, but also for the attempts the U.S. has made to quarantine and isolate Russia. Most Russians continue to criticize the United States and denounce U.S. jurisdiction in the Russian sphere of influence. As each country continues to threaten the other with its power, media sources are left to their own devices. In the United States, we are constantly reminded of a fundamental truth, which is Russia's lack of democracy. However, one major point that most Americans do not notice is that Russian democracy is very different from American democracy. Moving forward in a globalizing age, we must remove our biases to help change and form the world in which we want to live. Ultimately, we must create change. It is our duty as educated and free-thinking individuals to break free of the rigid framework of the Cold War era. We are growing and developing in a new era of increased media influence. We have the power to decide what types of media influence whom. We have the power to give media its clout. We have the power to shape our understanding of the world. Ultimately, we have the power to demand more from our media, and as such, we must demand more now.